Thanks everyone, whether you're a regular attendee for our Power BI for Enviro's meetup or if you're joining us for the first time, great to have you on board. So thanks everyone. Just a bit of housekeeping, as most people are quite familiar with Teams. Just as a courtesy to the presenters today, Belinda and also Alice, just please put yourself on mute while they're presenting, but by all means, there'll be opportunities throughout the session for question and answers. So feel free to come off mute, share your camera, show your face and ask questions directly when you're available. Otherwise, just write in the chat and we'll do our best to sort of answer them as we go, especially if it's related to the context of the study and the strategy and more about what Belinda will be talking about, or Power BI specific questions and techniques that Alice will be talking about in the second half of the session. Session's being recorded and will be available for anyone that misses it and in the blog and YouTube recording, so we'll share that afterwards. Before we begin, just like to acknowledge the people and elders of the Boon Wurrung and the Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation as of traditional owners and custodians for the lands that we're virtually presenting from today down in the Mornington Peninsula, and also acknowledge the traditional owners from any of the lands that you're dialing in from and also presenting from today. Alice and I both work Discovery.io, co-founders. The sort of space that we operate in is largely Power BI data management focus for environmental and water-based applications. So we sponsor the meetup every single month and a little bit of information about us. But onto why everyone has dialed in. Thank you. So our session today. So what we're going to talk about, or what's going to be presented, is the strategy of the Water for Life strategy, and also largely focused in the second half, the Power BI dashboard that supports this strategy. So Belinda will start with a bit of context on how the team approached the task, how Power BI was used to complement this large technical document to sort of communicate the findings, the information in an easily digestible manner, present some different Power BI tips and tricks that the team picked up along the way. And Belle specialises in the communication space, so really about keeping the content interesting and engaging to a whole range of various stakeholders that the strategy had to be sort of presented to. Alice in the second half will focus on the technical elements of the report. So looking at a lot of design features, packed full of bookmarks, buttons, corporate styles, layouts, embedding videos for intuitive navigation, and a whole lot more. So there'll be plenty of opportunities to ask questions that you might have on these different elements. So yeah, we encourage you to do that as the session goes on, and we'll create a bit of space and time to allow these questions to be asked. On to our presenters. So thank you, Belle, for presenting. I know you're going overseas next week, so you're sort of doing a lot of stuff at the moment, but I really appreciate you joining us and sharing your story. So Belinda Walters, currently overseeing the communications for the Greater Melbourne Urban Water and System Strategy, so the GMUS team, on behalf of the 4 main urban water corporations across Victoria. So Belle has a strong history in the public sector with previous roles held down here at Mornington Peninsula Shire Council and also the Municipal Association of Victoria. And prior to this, spent several years working in the private sector at the helm of a successful craft brewery. Very, very cool. And lives in the Yarra Ranges with her partner Lee and their mischievous dog Lemmy. So welcome, Belle. Thank you. Alice Drummond, who you may or may not know, is also co-founder of Discovery.io, also my wife, and she's a Microsoft MVP in the data platform, and she brings her passion in combining Power BI with design, largely for environmental and water-based applications. So she's got a strong history and experience in terms of the environmental engineering field, now works in the data space, complementing with environmental concepts and knowledge. Free time, she enjoys running, exploring local coastal routes down here on the peninsula, and also looking after our little man, Caleb, who's now 8 months old. So he'll join us at the end of the session after the recording's done, wave, say hi, but he will not be doing the Power BI demo or anything like that. So welcome, Belle, and Alice will jump on. As I said, we'll make the recording available, but honestly, Belle, without further ado, what I might do is I'll just share the link to the Water for Life strategy in the chat. This is a public Power BI report for anyone that hasn't seen it. So during the presentation, feel free to access it, have a bit of a play around and a look, might help drive a few questions. But Belle, without further ado, I'll stop sharing, pass it over to you, pass the headset across to Alice, and we'll go from there. So feel free to start sharing. Yeah, and good luck. Thank you again.
Thanks, Christian, and thanks to you both again for having me. So as Christian did it well there in his intro, I'm the communications lead for the GMUs, or the Water for Life project. I work for Southeast Water, but I'm representing also Greater Western Water, Melbourne Water, and Yarra Valley Water. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our dashboard and how we came to the decision to use a dashboard, and a little bit about the project, the governance, and the context of how we got here. So between the 4 water corporations, we have Melbourne Water as a wholesaler. So they supply wholesale drinking water, take care of sewage services, recycle water services, drainage, lots of interesting and important infrastructure. And the other 3 water corporations are retailers. So they provide drinking water that comes out of your taps at home, also sewage services, so taking the water away from your home, recycled water, trade waste, and also water services to the community. So as water corporations, our key role is to provide Greater Melbourne with safe and secure access to water supply and sewage services. And we're also responsible through Melbourne Water for drainage and waterway management and delivering water to regional areas and to the environment. So these services really support healthy environment, strong economy, and livable communities. And that's at the moment in the face of some pretty big challenges like climate change, population growth, and increasing urbanisation. More than 90% of our customers are residential, but we also deliver water to hospitals, schools, commercial, industrial businesses, and for agricultural use, so things like farming. A little bit here about our service regions. So I know everyone online today is coming from slightly different areas, possibly different countries. So we're based in Australia, in Victoria, and our combined service region provides water to an area of more than 11,000 square kilometres. That stretches from the Macedon Ranges across to the Yarra Valley and down to the Mornington Peninsula. And our service region also includes parts of the traditional country of the Bunurong, Dja Dja Wurrung, Gunner-Kurnai, Tornarong, Wadawurrung, and Wurundjeri Woiwurrung traditional owner groups, which are shown on the map here. Collectively, we deliver services to more than 5 million customers. So it's quite a few people that rely on the work we do. And we also maintain a lot of infrastructure. So tens of thousands of kilometres of things like water mains, pumping stations, treatment plants, and a few others. And this is just a little bit of context around our governance. So how we work, how we operate with the state government, with local councils, and our different roles and responsibilities. So this is a bit of a 50-year look at our water planning framework. So every 5 years, the retail water corporations are required to revise their urban water strategies, and Melbourne Water is required to revise the supply system strategy for Melbourne. So that makes sure that our plans are regularly reviewed and they take into consideration the current operating environment, any new knowledge, and make sure we're always working at best practice. The Melbourne Water System Strategy really looks at that whole of system view of water resource management across metropolitan Melbourne, as well as the surrounding regions. And the urban water strategies, they include planning for securing water supplies for the next 50 years and addressing some uncertainties, like I mentioned before, population growth, climate change, and climate variability. They also include drought preparedness plans. So that details how acute water shortages will be managed to make sure we're prepared for the event of a drought well in advance. So these strategies were last reviewed in 2017, and each water corporation did their strategy individually. While we still collaborated, we still worked together, there were individual strategies. But ahead of this year, this 2022 5-yearly review, the water businesses came together and decided we actually could collaborate even more and produce a single strategy. And that's where Water for Life, or GMU's, was born. We also partnered with some of our neighbouring regional water corporations. I know we've got some people from Gippsland Water here today, and that's just one of the groups that we worked with. So that's really how it was born. We said we're not going to do these things separately this time around. We're going to just come together. And that's where myself and the project team, we were seconded in. So we're all working for different water corporations, we were formed in a small project team to deliver this on behalf of all of the water businesses. Just trying to get my slides to cooperate with my mouse here. So the draft strategy, it really builds on the foundation from those 2017 strategies. It's quite a unique project, working with 4 different organisations together. So that translated to a lot of complexity. We worked with 11 different internal subject matter expert working groups. We also had 4 sets of executive, 4 sets of boards, as well as our requirements to report back into the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning and the Minister for Water. So not as straightforward as having one organisation where you can go up one chain of approvals, but definitely made our work stronger for being so collaborative. So when we were coming to consider the tools we would use for delivering the strategy, we obviously were drafting a document. That's part of our formal reporting requirement. We really wanted to work out the best ways to share that 50-year plan with our key stakeholders, with the customers, and with the broader community. So we developed a project website as a bit of a one-stop shop for where we would have all of our engagement tools and our information. And we really wanted to make sure we delivered a comprehensive engagement program. We were looking for a tool that was interactive, that would really complement the written document that we had. So the dashboard was a really key supporting piece for the strategy and was able to cover off on our requirements to engage. So what we've got here, obviously, we were looking to deliver meaningful stakeholder engagement. We wanted to complement the document, single source of truth, and something that we could get signed off by all the different water businesses. I've got here the reasons why we chose Power BI to do that and to work with Alice and Christian. So the key one there was meeting our best practice obligations. So under that framework I showed earlier with the teardrop, we have a statement of obligations, which is essentially a formal list of everything we need to cover off when we go through this process of building the strategy. It concludes like specific details that need to be in the document, as well as some guidance on the way that we engage with the community to get their feedback before we present the final strategy. So in my role in comms, one of the key obligations is to make the best use of emerging technologies to support meaningful engagement. So the dashboard really ticked all of those boxes for us to show we were doing something a little bit different. It was being used by a department and some other water corporations, but it wasn't something that was happening every day. And it was able to make it meaningful so we could provide different ways for people to understand information. As you could imagine, anyone who works Power BI, we also had a lot of data coming in across the 4 businesses. So varying formats, varying types of data, things like GIS map layers, spatial files to help plot all of the key infrastructure on our service region maps, and some charts we wanted to use to really synthesize pages of information that sat in the strategy. And Power BI allowed us to do that really easily and to integrate all the different data into one place so that we just had one single input and one update point in Alice and Christian we could go back to. The interactive component was also really important to us. So again, to complement those written documents, we wanted to provide accessible content that obviously met accessibility guidelines, but also to provide information in a range of ways. So we know that people learn in different ways, and while the written document would be the right tool for some people, being able to interact with content, things like watching a video or listening to a voiceover, is going to be a better way for others. So that was really important to us to make sure we were offering options so that everybody felt like they were given something that worked for them. I'd really encourage anyone to, if you're working on this project, really speak to your providers. So for us, it was Alice and Christian. Just talk about what's possible. They worked really closely with us on an instructional video that went on our website, and also some embedded navigational videos that I think Alice is going to touch on, so that every time somebody came onto a section of our dashboard, they could watch a short video and understand how to navigate and what to expect from that section. And they really, again, helped us tick those accessibility boxes. And they were also able to run regular accessibility checks for us, so we could report back that we were meeting accessibility guidelines with the dashboard. The next thing we were trying to tick off here was, again, that buy-in from all of the water corporations. So being able to offer something that was a single tool, all of the businesses could roll it out. So it's just some really simple code to embed it on your website. There's no risk of being inconsistent or having slightly different versions of information. It's always going to be the same dashboard, and that was really of interest to the businesses to be able to see how they could use that and put it anywhere on any website and make sure we were all pointing back to the same information. The simple integration of our brand was also really important. So again, being 4 different businesses, we all have different logos and brand colors and tone of voice and style guides. We were able to bring those together in a project brand and then work with our graphic designers to translate that through to Power BI and the final dashboard. So we really, really valued the ability to embed creative content, things like videos and photos. That was really a key way of making the information interesting. So advice I'd have there is you don't always have to be reinventing the wheel. We looked broadly for content that was already existing. So videos that the water corporations had created, that was literally me going through their YouTube channels trying to find things that were related, some purpose-built videos that we had created for the project, and just any other interesting and dynamic content that exists. Again, working with Alice and Christian to understand what was possible, where we could embed content, where we could be linking out. That really helped to keep the content interesting and not just have static pages of text, because that's really what we were trying to move away from, because we covered that with the document. The last thing here for us, why we chose it, was a great exercise in restraint. So we ended up with a 200-page strategy document, which is a great read if you've got a bit of time on a weekend and lots of important information, but we knew we couldn't have all of that content on our dashboard. So it was really a good exercise for our team to sit down together and say what is at the core of each chapter of this document and what are the things that people really need to understand in order to give us meaningful feedback. So that was a really good test. It worked out well for us. And I'm just going to share a bit of the process of how we did that, how we went from the 200-page document down to a dashboard that has significantly less than 200 pages. So we started off just looking at the structure. We were really collaborative. We had all the different businesses involved, sharing knowledge, collecting data. But the nature of this collaborative project meant it was a big task to include all of that data and get it all in the same place and the right format. And our team did a really great job of compiling and refining that data, with Alice and Christian doing a lot of work to support us in sorting and cleaning up the data as well. We also had to ensure that the businesses were brought along on the journey early on to make sure they would be supportive of what we created at the end of the day, because we needed them to roll this out to their customers and to the community. So to do this, we drew on a lot of industry examples. So the Delta Water Grid was a great one, and Gippsland Water's urban water strategy really helped us support our case for the dashboard and demonstrate to the businesses what could be done. So on screen here, I've just got one of our really early concepts of the structure and how that you would move through the pages. And I think when you're getting started on a project like this, I'd really recommend doing that work, researching existing platforms, get ideas and inspiration, see what can be done. And it's also a good exercise for just starting to build up the concept. As I mentioned before, we had 200 pages in the document, and we had to whittle those down into a much shorter dashboard without losing meaning. So this is one of my early, very simple structures of how we thought it could work out. And then what we did is we went through and we approached it as a bit of a storyboard. So we broke down the structure of each page and then mapped out the core content we wanted on each landing page. So here we've got a few examples. Just on the left is the really early mock-ups we came up with, and then how that translated on the right to the final dashboard page. Again, we drew on sample pages and sections that we liked from other Power BI reports. So on the left, you can see that we've got the Delta Water Grid at the top and the Gippsland Water urban water strategy at the bottom, just to show Alice and Christian what we had in mind, pages that we liked that we'd seen elsewhere. And really, as a team, we had to break it down to what are these key dot points of the information we want on this page. So that those kind of 5 or 6 dot points there, they're all reflecting pretty big sections of the strategy that we were able to synthesize. And yeah, what was eventually our infrastructure and environment page. So how we talked about where we operate, what our key pieces of infrastructure are, showing things like catchments and reservoirs, waterways. And then I've just got another example here of our people, places and communities page. And again, on the left, the early structure. So throughout this whole process, we really worked alongside Discovery Eye to understand what was possible and any limitations to make sure we weren't going too far down a path of something that couldn't be done. But they were really flexible and innovative and open to thinking about how the Power BI tools could support what we had in mind. And probably worth mentioning that coming into this, I had never used Power BI. I have no experience. So I was very much coming in like green pastures, let's do everything. And they were really great at giving me the understanding of how Power BI works and how it would translate into the dashboard that we ended up with. We did go through lots of iterations and lots of work in the early stages to get the concept right. And I'm sure Alice and Christian really loved all of my PowerPoints and these mock-ups you can see on the screen and trying to get the flow right. But this did really help manage input from the team and then eventually minimize the rounds of updates we had on the final dashboard, because we were really clear on what we wanted before it came in, and that freed up a bit of time to just work on feedback from our stakeholders. So we've got here a bit of our process. We started around August last year, so pretty much 12 months we've been working on this together. We started with some, obviously, that inspiration of the pages and the other platforms we liked. We went through that ideation concept development phase. Then we went through quite a few months of internal and external testing. So again, those subject matter expert groups we have internally, we tested the dashboard with them in a concept phase. We got lots of feedback that turned into refinement with Alice and Christian. We did that through each layer of approval in our governance. Then once we were pretty comfortable with the dashboard, we actually took it external. So we had an independent community panel who had contributed to the strategy, helped write our strategic vision and helped with the goals for the strategy as well. We tested the dashboard with them. And that was a really critical part of the refinement process, because we were hearing from people outside of our industry, people who represented a really broad range of ages, languages spoken, differing levels of familiarity with the content, as much as they'd been through a process with us and a journey of learning. It's still quite different to people, obviously, who've been working in the sector for 5-10 years, and this is what they do every day. So that really helped us to understand where, any little things we might have missed that weren't as clear as they could be, any extra information, any navigational issues. I think with anything that you work on like this, any digital platforms, once you've been in it for long enough, you don't always pick up on what might not be obvious to someone as a first pass. So that really helped us refine how people moved through the dashboard and where we gave tips and direction. And then finally, the dashboard went through formal approval with the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning and the Minister for Water. And really pleasingly, we received quite minimal changes at that stage and generally a lot of support for what we had created. So with those final changes then, in June this year, we launched a month of public consultation, and the dashboard was really showcased as one of our key engagement tools. And this is what the front cover looked like. Alice is going to go into a lot more of the exciting moving parts. I just wanted to finish with how we use the dashboard and how it was an engagement tool for us. So it was really important as part of our public consultation. It was and still is on our project website, as you'll be able to see on the link Alice shared earlier. And during consultation, we embedded links to the survey throughout the dashboard with prompts for people to provide feedback. That was really key to make sure that we were closing the loop and giving people information, but also pushing them to come and give us their feedback on the strategy. We also leveraged the dashboard as a bit of a looping back tool. So we had a lot of meetings with key stakeholders. We had workshops. We had a series of 3 community webinars where people could come along to ask questions and learn more information. So after presenting on the strategy, it was really a great tool to come back to people and complement what we'd already shown them and offer up a different way of experiencing the strategy and gaining information. So I will now hand back to Alice to go into a bit more about what went on behind the scenes. But thank you again for inviting me to present, and happy to answer any questions along the way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Belle. I think it's really helpful and useful just to hear the journey that you and the team went through, and how Power BI can be used like in complementary to a written report. We do have, oh, sorry, can you see me? Is my camera still on?
I can see you.
Okay, cool. I can't see myself. That's fine. I don't need to see myself. We do have a couple of questions. One from Simon Walker. He was just asking who owns the Power BI report. So which tenant does it live on, and who is responsible for maintaining and administering it?
Yeah, sure. So I can talk a bit about the maintenance, and I might pass some of the tenant question on to you. But basically, at the moment, it's collaborative. So Southeast Water, where I work, is overseeing the governance. So we've got the platform license, I think is how you'd explain it. And at the moment, we're going through a bit of planning for implementation of the strategy and what that will look like. And that will include sorting out a plan for where it lives in the future, how it's used, how it might be able to be tweaked and updated. But essentially, it is owned by all of the water corporations. It's a tool for all of them to keep using moving forward. And yeah, there's at the moment there's lots of ideas for how it could be used. It could be used to talk about how we implement the strategy, some of the other collaborative work we do together. And yeah, if Alice, you might have more of the technical licensing information.
Fantastic. Oh, thanks, Belle. And I think so, Simon, in answering whose tenant it lives on at the moment, Discovery Eye is publishing and hosting it on our Power BI tenant. Just as that central point so that we can help the team make all of the changes and the updates. And I think down the track when we're doing the handover, I think that's still up for discussion, which Water Corp will take ownership of the Power BI report in terms of the hosting.
Okay, no, thanks, Belinda and Alice. I guess I've got a reason for asking the questions, because is it going to end up in my lap? Is that what I'm asking? Yeah. So I guess, Belinda, at some point we'll catch up and have a conversation around the purpose and such. So, but thank you both. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Thanks, Simon.
Awesome. Cool. Always good to have people like you on the call, Simon, thinking about how we're going to make it a long-term solution and who's going to be managing it. We did have a couple more questions. So Pram asked what the file size of the final report is with all the text from the 200-page report and visuals. So I think you're referring to the file size of the Power BI report. So that's 30.5 megabytes, which is pretty small for a Power BI report. We had a question from Alan just about how the report is being hosted. So is this a Power BI embedded workspace and the container on the website and iframe? So we're not using Power BI embedded, but we are using the Power BI publish to web feature, and Belinda is hosting it on the Water for Life website as an iframe. So there's a couple of different things. There's a follow-on question there just about security. And are we using row level security requirements? For this dashboard, for this Power BI report, we're not, because all the information is public. So we don't have to have any of the row level security requirements. For those of you who haven't come across row level security, it's a really good feature in Power BI that allows you to change what information you display based on the user login credentials. So it's really useful for things like finance or other kind of semi-sensitive information. So you could create one report which has all of the information, but it's tailored for the end user when they log in. But because this is a public Power BI report, all of the information is in the public domain. We had a couple more questions just about the text we're using in Power BI. So Power BI has a text character limit of, what did I think I said? It was like 32,500 characters. So the team did a really good job of condensing the text. We did not get anywhere near close to that character limit. But that's something to keep in mind if you are displaying text in Power BI. Another question, did you consider adding a Q&A panel to provide users with self-service FAQs? So that's a really good suggestion. We hadn't really thought about that, but that could be something that you could think about adding into a Power BI report like this. Do you think that would be a helpful feature, Belle?
Yeah, I think so. So we just had the survey embedded. I think we probably got to the point of how much information we could ask people to look at one screen, but definitely having that Q&A there and getting a bit of feedback on the spot would be great.
Yeah, no, that would be really cool. That's a cool idea. Thanks for sharing that. A couple more, I think lots of Power BI questions. Alan asking, I noticed when navigating the report for the first time that the navigation video is available, which can be closed. And then if the tab is revisited, the video is no longer displayed until a page refresh is done. So how are we controlling the display of not showing the same video once it's been closed? And does the close button set a filter? So this is a little bit of a trick. I think when Belle asked for this feature, I was thinking, how would we do this? Because if you're visiting a Power BI report and you're on a new page, you would want to see the video. You want to see how you can navigate that page of the dashboard, but also the video acts as a little bit of an executive summary to share the key points of the page as well. But whenever you keep going back to the page, if you're a frequent user, you don't want to have the video popping up every single time. So this is a little bit of a trick. We've done it with the page navigation kind of buttons, and this is something that I can demo. So I'll go through how we did configure this. So I'll go through that in a minute. And one last question. Elsa is new to Power BI. So does Power BI allow for a bilingual dashboard, and are the mockups also done in Power BI? So that's a really good point about bilingual dashboard. I think that I haven't worked on one before. I do know that Power BI, you can change the language based on where you are located in the world. So it adopts your local kind of settings. But I think that you could develop a bilingual dashboard, but it might take a little bit of work on your part. You would have to have, say, 2 versions of, I'm just trying to think it through, 2 versions of the text, and you could probably get around it with lots of conditional formatting options. But I'm just thinking for things like tooltips and things. Yeah, it might be a little bit tricky. I would suggest for that one, I can have a look and we can answer it on the blog. But I reckon if you want a bilingual dashboard, maybe having 2 copies of the dashboard. Or you could definitely make things bilingual for the key elements of it. But it could be tricky to make everything bilingual because there are things which you can't change, which are Power BI text features on certain things like tooltips. And a follow-up question, are the mockups also done in Power BI? Did you want to answer that one, Belle?
Yeah, so the ones I shared, they're just PowerPoint slides, nothing fancy about them. So we just, again, had a look at some of the other pages we liked and just did a bit of a storyboarding and structure, but they're just plain and simple PowerPoint slides. And then, yeah, so personally, I did not need to work in Power BI to build this, which was great. I didn't have to learn anything extra. I was able to work in a slide and in, just, emails and conversations with Alice and Christian. Could obviously log into like test versions of the dashboard to try it out. But they were able to manage all of the updates, and for all of the text, we just had HTML in a spreadsheet, so we could go in. Probably advice on that is just if you've got other people inputting the text, get that in a Word document first, because it can be tricky if you've got lots of people trying to update HTML that don't quite understand the code and trying to change that. But yeah, everything was managed through either PowerPoint slides for a guide or a spreadsheet for the text and the data.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cool. I think that's all the questions for now, but please, if you have any questions as we go, just type them in the chat or go off mute. So now I'm going to take us through just a quick tour of the Power BI report, and also do a couple of demos into some of the interesting features in this Power BI report. So what I'm going to focus on with the demos are things like how to bring in a corporate background to really help frame your reports and give it that consistency of brand that Belle was talking about. I'm also going to chat through some of the neat navigation features, so using things like buttons and bookmarks, and also show you quickly how to embed videos as well, which are used throughout this Power BI report. But if there was anything else, any other questions as you go, or you see something interesting and you want to know how was it done, please don't be shy. Just type in the chat, and happy to go through other demos as well. So I'm up on the Water for Life strategy page. I'll just copy this into the chat if anyone wants to take a look with us. And we've got the Power BI report here. It's embedded as an iframe inside the main website. So we can make it full screen by clicking on this arrow down the bottom. And we've got a series of pages here. I think in total we might have 8 pages, so a lot less than 200 odd pages in the PDF strategy. And you can see here we've just got a landing page. Here we're using buttons to navigate to the different pages of the report. So we might just go through a couple of pages to start with. As we get to the first page, the strategy overview, you can see that this navigation video here pops up. And this has 2 benefits. It firstly shows new users how to navigate through the dashboard, because we do have a lot of sub-pages, as we'll see in a second. But it also acts as an executive summary overview. So Belle and the team helped with the script for this, just to really call out the key elements of these chapters of the dashboard. So we can close these videos, and as we go through, we've got other videos embedded in the dashboard as well, and we can navigate through the different sub chapters by using these bookmark navigators at the top here. And within some of the sub chapters here, we have another layer of navigation. So this is where we were trying to condense down lots of information, and sometimes we wanted to display a little bit more than what would fit on one page for these sub pages. That's where we're using some more buttons and bookmarks here to really try to display a lot of information. So you can see that we can click through all of these different pages. Within the pages, we also have a list of different actions that the strategy is trying to meet across its plan for the next 50 years. And you can see here that we've got a list of all of the different actions. This is for the entire strategy report, and here we're just showing and hiding different content, again, using buttons and bookmarks. If we go to another page, I'll take us to our challenges page here. You can see that we've got actions again, but this time we've just got actions relevant to this theme. So it's really about trying to present a lot of information, but in a way that is just relevant for people who are interested in these different chapters. So there's lots of other kind of interesting features of Power BI, which we've got here. We've got lots of images throughout the dashboard. We've made these images, they're not interactive, but we've embedded them in Power BI so that they can be kind of clickable. We can zoom into these images and see them a little bit bigger as well. On some of the different charts and things like that, we've got different interactive components. So you can zoom in and hover over different years just to get a little bit more information. So what we were trying to focus on with Power BI is how we can complement the written strategy. So a lot of these things like having zoomable images, things like having interactive maps, what else? Videos as well. All of this kind of rich media content. It's really difficult to communicate that in a static PDF report. So they were the things that we were trying to really showcase with the interactive strategy here. And then the written report is really there for a reference for people who really want to get into the detail and have a nice read through the finer details of the strategy. So I won't go through all of the different pages. Please feel free to browse at your own pace. But what I do want to take you through today is just a couple of really quick demos on some of the key techniques. So what I'm going to do now, this was the Power BI report, which was published up and shared online and hosted on the website. What I'm going to do now is go into the Power BI desktop file. And the Power BI desktop file, this is almost like the developer version. This is where we create the Power BI reports. So this is what it looks like here. Now, if you haven't ever seen a Power BI desktop file, you can see now that we can click on things and we could edit the text. We could edit different elements. And it has a kind of a look and feel very similar to something like PowerPoint or Excel because it's a Microsoft product. Oh, sorry, I'm just battling a cold. I might just take a bit of a strepsil. In the chat. Okay, so what I wanted to demo today was a couple of features on the challenges page. So the first thing I wanted to show you was how, if you've got a Power BI report, how we can get that really nice kind of consistent brand look and feel by having your own corporate background in here. So we've got just a plain background at the moment. It's just a blue color. But for this strategy, what we wanted to do was to really align it with the written document. So we created this background in Adobe Illustrator just to give it the same look and feel of the written strategy. And in Power BI, you can bring in your own custom backgrounds. You just make sure that you have no visuals on the page selected. And then under Canvas background, oh, sorry, I do have a very itchy throat. I might have to get Christian to come in. What have we got here? So under the backgrounds, then we can add the SVG image. We set it to fit. And you can see that makes a big difference. So hold on 1 minute, I'm so sorry. I might have to just go on mute, go get Christian to tag in. Oh, I'm really struggling with my throat. I'll be 2 minutes.
And I might just jump in for a second there and say, yeah, so Alice and Christian worked really closely with our graphic designer to bring across designed elements. So that diagram that's on the screen there with the little houses and the cities, that's a flat diagram that featured in the written document that we were able to bring across. And as Alice said, make it zoomable. And there's a couple of other diagrams and things throughout the dashboard that were lifted from the strategy and either just dropped in, or in some cases we were able to animate them and add a little bit of movement. And Power BI was really good for doing that, creating that interactive sense without really needing to create like a full animation or something too complex. We could just put a little bit of movement, a little bit of clickable elements in, and that really made a big difference. And as Alice said, that some of the videos and the creative content we created to use on like social media and our website, we were able to embed that in here as well. So we had that really nice flow of the look and feel of the project throughout the whole dashboard. And I think Christian's back now, so hand back over.
Hi everyone, thanks. Sorry about that, and thanks Belle for jumping in. So Alice told me she's shown you how to bring in sort of the custom background, which adds a nice effect. It's also another feature of Power BI. Just before I get into the bookmarks and the buttons up here, we can set up our own customized theme file as well to get corporate sort of colors, corporate styles in terms of font types. And it's always possible if you go under your view and then you click under here, there's a whole range of different themes. If we've got a custom theme, what you can actually do is you can customize that current theme, or you can save the current theme. And then in this example here, I'll just save it as theme. What that actually looks like, what that allows you to do is if you save that current theme, you can use it for other Power BI reports by importing a custom theme. And then it automatically splashes those colors, those corporate colors and those corporate styles in your Power BI reports straight away. So if you go here, plugins, gets exported as a JSON-based file. So you can see this is what it looks like behind the scenes. Here we've got GMUs, whole range of different primary colors as hex codes, so splashes it. And then we've also got some custom icons here that we use. And it allows you to automate a lot of like background colors for visuals, whether you want borders or not, as well as font types as well for headings and these sorts of things. So that's custom themes. And if you haven't come across it in Power BI before, it's a very, very useful feature. So now what I just want to do is show you how we can set up what are known as bookmarks, which are almost different snapshots of this Power BI report. So under the View tab, just like we have in something like PowerPoint, you have an option here of seeing a selection pane. And then what that shows is it shows you all the different features that we have on the report. So we can hide different features and show other features as we work our way through. The other thing you've got to open up if you want to set up bookmarks and buttons is you can see right next to here, we have a bookmark pane. So what we've done here is you can see we've structured a range of different bookmarks for our Power BI report. But if you want to have a snapshot or create your own bookmark, so say I want to create a bookmark here of what we're seeing, all you got to do is you hit add, and there's a few different options here. So you can choose for data, display, whether you have it for a selected number of visuals or all the visuals, but I just want to leave it as default. We can rename this to probably like, I think we've got a text box. So what we're seeing at the moment, what I want to rename this snapshot to is the overview. And then what we can do is we can hide the visuals from the overview and select something like population growth. And then in a similar way, I can set up this bookmark here. So I can add it, rename it population growth. And there's another few, but I'll just do one more. So this one, we're seeing a sort of stream flow over time across the major reservoirs. So lastly, I want to just add this. And this one we've called as climate change for the bookmark. Now, halfway through the project, there was a new Power BI feature that came in known as the Bookmark Navigator, and that made setting up bookmarks and buttons really, really a lot easier than what it was previously. So what are you going to do is I have now these 3 bookmarks that we've set up for these different pages. You want to select them all, so you click it, hold shift, just make sure you got them all selected. And then we want to make sure we group them all. We can just rename the group as demo, and you can see that within it we have these different features. So I'm just going to leave that there actually like that. Now the cool thing about the Bookmark Navigator is we can actually set this up. We can go into our insert under button. There's a new feature, Navigator, and we can do a Bookmark Navigator. So what this will come up with is every single bookmark that we've got across the whole Power BI report, which is a little bit messy. But what we can actually do is under bookmarks, where we've got all, we can now choose that group that we've set up. So in our case, it's the demo. And now you can see that we have these different options. I purposely left this in the particular order that is incorrect. So we can drag and drop and bring that down, and you can see that it gets updated. And the cool thing about this is, say it's not climate change, say we want to rename it, climate change demo, then it'll automatically update that text. And this is a bookmark navigator that allows us to then click through these different visuals based on how we set up this report. So it's a really useful feature. As you can see in the main page, you can set it up with different styles. So we've got these chevron-based styles, and you can set up different features to show what are the selected bookmarks, yeah, whether you want different changes for, the text getting bold on hover, and then what happens when you select these different features. So yeah, so there's a range of different elements that we can do as well. And then what we've got down here on the left, as if I navigate back to a page, is we've got, we could approach a similar sort of style. So have, bookmarks, group, but for this one's down here, which is our different page navigation that we set up, we used a different approach. So what we actually did is we inserted a blank button for this example here. So I just want to set that up there, bring it down, position it. And in a similar way, it brings up automatically these different styles that we can do. So there's a few things I want to turn off, is the border, and I'm going to turn the fill. And then what we have here is, at the moment, the icon type we've got is blank, but there's a range of different options that we have for these icons. So what we did in this example is we went into custom, and then you get an option for bringing in a custom icon. So if we go to, just bear with me, sample files, icon, we have here blue buffer. We have a range of different icons that we've saved that represent the different pages that we have in the Power BI report. So I can just choose this one here to represent the home icon. And there's a few different features that we can set up as well for it. So I just want to center it. And then you turn the text on, but we want to make sure we don't have any text on available. So with setting up these buttons, and I recognize we've only got sort of 5 minutes to go, so I'll just set this one up, and then you can sort of take this information away for your own Power BI reports. With these different buttons that we're setting up here is we have a few different states. So we have the default state, what they're going to see. Then we can set up what it looks like on hover, and then on press. So the sort of effect, and this is where it all comes down to design-based features, the sort of effect that you can look to set up is you want it to be intuitive for the users. So on hover, we've changed it so the icon disappears and we've got the home text come up. Then if we select it, you can see that it goes dark blue and click through, and then it navigates into the page. Yeah. So there's a range of those different features that you can bring in to really enhance these buttons and make it easier for your users. The last thing as well. Yeah. The last thing we set up is what's known as the navigation videos that Alice went through. And for those people that are unfamiliar with how to embed videos in your Power BI reports, we're using a visual here that's known as the HTML viewer. So I think it's this one here, or the HTML content. So I can select HTML content, I can structure it to where I want to position it. And we have here, you can see the values or the fields that it requires. You can see all of our different fields. We've got under, I've just got to see where it is, the nav videos, we've grouped them all together. We want to bring in the nav video HTML. And then that's it. And then if you want to see what this nav video HTML looks like, all we're doing is we're pointing to, I don't know why that's so long, some navigation videos that we've pre-recorded that are hosted on our Vimeo site. We have a Vimeo Pro license, and we're just using the HTML wrapping around it to then bring and show those videos to create the effect that you see when you click on the reports as it comes in. Yep. And there was one question, sorry, I've got Alice talking just on the side. There's one question about how we get these navigation videos to launch on the page. And in terms of setting that up, so that was how?
You want me to take it?
I'll pass it back.
I think it Hey, sorry about that. Oh, we've been battling lots of different colds and flus this winter, so I think my throat's okay. But just to close out that question we had, I think it was from Alan, about how do we get the nav videos to pop up here when you launch a page, but then when you've revisited the page, how do you get them to disappear? So the trick we've got here is before you publish your Power BI report, make sure that you have your nav videos open on every single page like this. And then all we're doing with the with the navigation between pages is we're using an action on these buttons to navigate to the page. So we're not navigating to a bookmark or a state or a filter. It's just navigating to that page. And that works to navigate to the page. I'll show you here. Here we're just navigating to this page, the accessible and affordable water page. If I close that page of the dashboard and I go back home and then I go back into this page, it navigates to that page based on whatever state you've got it. So that's a little bit of a trick that we did. You just have to be a little bit careful. Each time you republish and you've made changes, make sure that you have your navigation videos open on every page. So I think that was it from the demos. I'm just having a look through the questions if we had any extra ones. Cool. So I don't think there were any extra questions. Hopefully we've covered off on lots of your Power BI questions. Thanks, Alan. Really glad you enjoyed it. I'll just take us through just the closing slides. And then I'm happy to stay on for an extra 5 or 10 minutes if people did have follow-on questions. So thank you so much again, Belinda, for presenting today. I know that you've got 1,000,001 things that you're juggling just before you go on leave off overseas. But I think that was a really interesting insight into how you and the team were using Power BI on this study and your journey. If anyone did want to catch up on any of the points covered off, we'll share the recording on our blog and YouTube channel. And that also has recordings of all our previous meetup sessions as well. Next month, so 15th of September, we've got the CSIRO team presenting on the Great Barrier Reef SELT-MP Power BI dashboards. So we'll probably do a joint presentation. We've got Daniel Marsh-Patrick presenting as well at this one because he did some really cool DNEB visuals. If anyone's in the Power BI industry has come across DNEB, that's Daniel's custom visual that he's created, and he'll take us through one of the visuals that we used on that project as well. And then I think in October we've got the One and Water team again presenting on some interesting water management dashboards again, which they're using internally. If anyone is keen to present, we're always looking for presenters, whether you've used Power BI for like just a very beginner level or up to all advanced techniques, please reach out and get in touch. We're always looking for interesting and new presenters. But thank you so much for everyone for jumping on, especially all the new members. Really good to see you here. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the session.
Thanks, Alice. It was great. Thanks,
Awesome.
Belinda.
Thanks, Simon.
See ya.
Thank you. Oh, thanks everyone for all the comments. And apologies for my coughing attack. That's when it's good to have backup. Did you enjoy that, Joanne?
Sorry.
Oh, sorry, you're on mute.
Yes, I did. Very much so. Yes, very informative. I was quite impressed. Thank you very much for having us all. It was wonderful. Have a lovely afternoon.
Awesome. Thanks. Thanks
Bye.
so much. See you later.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm just starting and seeing like from the ideas to the final dashboard is very good for me, like to see it like more touchable, like and yeah. Thank you so much. So I'm very inspired to continue the path.
Oh, so, awesome.
Yeah.
I think so. So are you working in the environmental field or the data field or kind of both?
I'm switching careers. So I did a PhD in biomechanics and I just finished a certification in data science, but I'm going first in data analytics. And I was teaching in sustainability here in Colombia.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
So I'm doing a switch of careers towards doing sustainability with data analytics. And soon I will go to the Netherlands again. I'm here right now in Colombia, so I think we have a 12-hour difference of time, I think.
Oh, wow. So is it the middle of the night where you are?
Here is 10 p.m.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
So yeah, so I'm in I'm switching careers, but I have been in data analysis since I was in my grad school. So, and I'm very visual. So what you see there is like my paintings. So Power BI is like, oh my God, this combines what I really like. So I was looking at your material and before, and when I saw that some of the images were done in Illustrator, I was like, yes. So yeah, I'm going towards something that combines my passion.
That sounds awesome. Oh, well, I have to hit you up for a presentation down the track.
Yes, later for sure. I'm just starting, but yeah, I will be very happy later to do that. I am just in the middle of the transition, but
awesome.
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much, Alice and Belinda, and and everybody who also answered the bilingual part. Because
that was a really interesting question. I'll follow up and I'll have a look and we'll comment on it in the blog.
Thank you. Yes,
awesome.
I will read it. Well, I wish you a very good day, and until the next meeting.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining.
Cool. And thanks again, Belle. I think, Alan, you had a question about row level security. So feel free to jump off if you want. Belle, I know you're very busy today.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
So we're currently playing with Power Pages, which is obviously the next generation of portals. But it's currently in preview, so it's not GA. And we're looking at potentially building a customer portal.
Yeah.
And we're using Power BI embedded. And pretty much everything's working great. But one of the problems we've had is trying to get a Power BI report to look really good within